Oh, you put your Patreon. I should have put my Patreon.
There we go. Sometimes I just need to get ready, you know. I like to make, and it's the last thing I do to make sure not a hair is out of place while I'm engaging with these awesome people.
Yes. I said you put your Patreon. I should have put mine.
Give me the link. But you know what? Give me the link now, but then give it to me later, because it's kind of like KRS-One once said, he never starts a show by saying, put your hands in the air. He gives them a reason to put their hands in the air and then lets them do it. Because I know how awesome you are, but a lot of people might not.
Let's see. Let me see. I have the link. Do I have the link? Oh yeah, it's open. It's like a /Seren_sensei.
You gotta put it in the comments so I can
comments.
Highlight it.
Phone is moving slow. Yeah.
So
I put it in the private chat. Should I put it in the live comments?
No problem. No problem. Let's do this then. I'm going to click it here. Hey, Sam, I am. Boa tarde, Sam.
Hi.
Let's do this. First, where do I start? Because the road is long and wide. Let's do this. Let's give them a highlight reel first.
Okay.
You pronounce your name for us. You know, my name is YusefWateef, and I know sometimes I have to give people the first dose to make sure they get it right. I've read your names many times, but I've never heard you say your name.
It's Seren Sensei. Seren Sensei.
And what about wait, hold on.
The channel name is Sensei Aishitamasu.
Aishitamasu. I lived in Japan, Tokyo, for a little while, and that sounds Japanese. What does it mean?
Japanese. It means teacher, I love you, or I love you, teacher, whichever you want. It's actually from Pacific Rim. It's a line of dialogue from Pacific Rim. The backstory is like kind of long.
you went hard.
Okay.
You went hard to Pacific Rim, because I'm an Idris Elba fan, and that film still had me kind of. And the dude from what was it? The Reaper? What was his name? Sons of Anarchy. That Pacific Rim had me.
I love Pacific Rim. So my first blog, my blog on Tumblr was a Pacific Rim fandom blog. And so the name of the blog on Pacific Rim was Sensei Aishitamasu, because it was that line of dialogue. And that's actually the only line of Japanese dialogue in the movie that's untranslated. It doesn't have an English caption. It's the last thing that gets said to Idris Elba before he dies in the movie. Oh, spoiler alert, I guess. Sorry. But
so watch this. I don't know. This might have went over some people's heads. Did you just say Tumblr?
I did say Tumblr, yes. So that's how old it is.
Hold on, because that, again, you're digging in the crates on that one. Matter of fact, let me show everybody your Tumblr too. I hadn't heard the word Tumblr in a long time.
Yes. I'm still on Tumblr. I still like Tumblr.
Like that. About me, digital content creator. I take umbrage with that, because that's not exactly true. Like, that's a very, very watered down.
It's loose.
Watered down.
It's loose.
To say you're a digital content creator.
It's loose. I change it regularly. Sometimes it's hard. I feel like it's hard to kind of like encapsulate what I do, sort of. Like, sometimes it says artist, and sometimes it says like critic, and I change it around.
And folks, when she says critic, she means everybody. Like, nobody gets out.
No.
Nobody
I
gets out.
literally just finished recording a video before we went live.
Wait, BK from the Rockies. Oh my, Wamo Shinderu. Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star.
Hi, BK from the Rockies.
Well, let me back up. Do you speak Japanese?
I don't.
Okay. Okay, because with the level of bilingual, multilingual, and nerd intersection that happens on my channel, when people see Japanese in your title, prepare for your inbox to start getting hit with some
Japanese,
with some grim Japanese from Americans. Like, oh my goodness, I speak Japanese too.
I don't. I should learn, but I don't. It's funny because I'm actually really good with languages. I used to be really conversational in Spanish, but I've kind of fallen off. I should get back on that, but I kind of fell off of it. And I can pick it up really fast. I know a couple words in Polish. I used to know a little Czech, but I fell off, which is not good.
Thank you, Green Machine. Let me ask you this then. What other countries have you lived in? Don't worry, people. We're going to get to the meaty part in a minute. I just want to get some background in.
I've only lived in the United States. But I've actually done a lot of traveling. I've been lucky enough to do a lot of traveling abroad. Starting when I was in high school, I went to Europe, and I went like all through Eastern Europe with my school, which is how I like picked up a little bit of Czech. I picked up a little bit of Polish. We went through Germany, saw France, Prague in the Czech Republic. What else did I see? I saw like so much, like Lithuania, Luxembourg. Like I went to Auschwitz. I saw a ton of stuff when I was in high school. And then I've also, I spent a summer in Dominican Republic with a really good friend that her parents had a house there. Been to Mexico, now I'm trying to like think. I've been to Canada, which doesn't really count. It doesn't.
You just told all my Canadian friends, basically, I just nobody.
It doesn't really count. I don't know. Some people would say Mexico doesn't really count either, so we'll see. But yeah, I was lucky enough to travel, and I've been really good with languages my whole life, so I've picked up things here and there, but I've never lived abroad. My really good friend Coco lives abroad, so I would love to go see her at some point. But
where?
She lives in Switzerland, I want to say, in Switzerland. And before that, she was living in Dubai for a really long time, and she's from Oakland.
Right on. Are you in Oakland too?
I'm not. I'm currently, so it's actually funny. I kind of like bounce around between, I'm from DC, I'm born and raised in DC, and I kind of bounce around between DC, New York, and LA a lot. And I was actually in California I had an event in March when the quarantine and like the lockdown happened, and I'm still here. So
well, let's do this. I also, before I forget, I think the easiest way to access you, before we get into that whole critique, I want people to start following you before you piss somebody off, which is cool. I do the same thing. Most of my friends get mad. They get big mad. I want everybody to check her out on Facebook. Wait a minute. Did you share the link that I posted about this on your Facebook as well?
I did not. I just came
How dare! Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna post this in the thing, and I'm gonna say, make sure.
I have a Mac, and I had to like download a whole new browser for this.
What browser did you have to download? Chrome?
Yeah, I downloaded Firefox.
You're killing me with first you talked to me about Tumblr, and now you're using Firefox.
I am.
Are you living in reverse?
What can I say? It didn't run on Safari. I'm on Safari.
Okay, see, I'm a Chrome person and a Safari person, but mainly Chrome.
Oh, Green Machine, you said all the high-cost cities? Yeah, I've lived in Miami as well. I've lived in like all the top, most expensive cities.
Well, let me do this. You know what? You sent me something in private chat, and I'm going to send you this.
I've lived in like all the top, most expensive cities. I have an echo.
Hold on. There you go. I just realized that I clicked on the YouTube portion, and it's still there, and it created an echo, so I went ahead and muted it there so we don't hear two of you, because 4 of us would break the internet.
Sam, I saw you said you follow my channel on YouTube. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Let me see. There, I'm going to put that there, and also check the private chat. Boom. That link, would you mind terribly sharing that on Facebook and on Twitter?
I don't have Twitter. I'm permanently banned.
Oh, right. I totally forgot. that you get like, okay, what'd you do?
I called Bruno Mars a culture vulture, and people got really upset.
Are you serious? That's all you did?
Uh-huh. I called Bruno Mars a culture vulture, and people got really upset, and a lot of his fans, like hundreds of thousands of people, reported me. They said I was using abusive language and all this stuff, and my page got permanently banned. So
that, like, see, here's, I'm going to do a channel later on this week about why I'm just leaving all political parties and just probably going to go independent, because this is some sincere left-wing bullshit. The fact that you call someone a culture vulture, which, let's be clear, it's not a nice thing, right? But it's not like you insulted the man's heritage. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was like a lot. And I also felt like, and like during that time, so I got banned from Twitter in 2018. So it was like a couple years ago. And sort of like right after I got banned, Jack, you know, the head of Twitter, he wrote this like long essay of like, oh, we've been trying to aggressively tamper down on abuse by like ramping up our, you know, zero tolerance policy and like blocking people when they get like mass reported. Then they were like, oh, you know, it's come to our attention that like the mass reporting is being like weaponized and people are being, because it was almost like an algorithm, you know, like, oh, 100,000 people reported you, so they can't be wrong. You have to be doing something. The algorithm just like shuts you down and that's it. But the way that they do it on Twitter, it's like, you can't even appeal it. Like there's no process, there's nothing, like you're just banned and that's it. And so shortly after, Jack actually released a statement saying like, oh, maybe we went about it the wrong way by just banning people and like banning blanket language instead of like engaging in conversations. But it was like too late. I wouldn't even go back, to be honest, because I feel like Twitter is a cesspool. I can curse, right? That's fine.
I don't give a fuck.
Okay, I feel like Twitter is like a fucking cesspool, and I wouldn't go back anyway.
Well, here's the problem. Twitter, in my opinion, is just a microcosm of society. It depends on who you hang around with. My first time on Twitter, I had friends tweeting, I'm in the bathroom, and I realized Twitter isn't bad. I just had to start following people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, you know, people who said things that mattered. How you doing, Brother Taylor? Russell Taylor made dreams out of the Matrix, frequent guest and generally awesome person.
Yay! Taylor made dreams out of the Matrix. I love the Matrix.
Brother Craig, he agreed with you on Bruno Mars. We can argue about that later, but you know.
It was wild. The Bruno Mars thing got really intense and got way bigger than I thought. Because to me, it was like, I felt the same way. Like, I didn't feel like I insulted Bruno Mars. I didn't say, you know, I just said like, Bruno Mars is a culture vulture, you know? I said like, Bruno Mars is like winning awards and getting all this stuff for doing this, you know, Prince Bobby Brown impersonation, and everybody's acting like it's amazing. They never seen it before. And like people freaked out. They freaked out.
It's always easier to trick somebody than to convince them they've been tricked. And at the end of the day, I look at it like this. If I'm going to attack a public figure, Bruno Mars ain't sold no dope in no neighborhoods. Bruno Mars never advocated shooting black people. I'm okay with Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars is not that. We have people being touted as superstars in the black community and in the liberal community who have done egregious shit. And they want to attack a man who sings like people who have already sung before, which is, I mean, but you should be able to say that. You should be able to say.
Yeah. And it wasn't really an attack. I was asked, what did I think, you know, because it was like he had just won the Album of the Year Grammy, and there was like all this, you know, conversation about did he deserve it? And, you know, was the album overhyped? You know, all this stuff. It was just like a conversation about how do we feel about Bruno Mars? I didn't even really feel like I attacked Bruno Mars. I just said my opinion on him winning, and people got upset. Like, they got really upset. And I called him a karaoke singer. I was like, you know, Bruno Mars is really talented. I think he can sing. I think he can dance. You know, I have nothing against him personally, but I feel like he's a karaoke singer, you know, like he's a wedding singer, a cruise ship singer. he's doing covers. Like he's doing covers. Like he's doing covers of Prince. He's doing covers of Bobby Brown. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It doesn't bother me whether or not I agree with what you said. It's that you can get thrown off a public thing. I know other Black people that have had horrible things said to them recently, and their attackers just, for some strange reason, don't get banned. And you call someone a culture, but you know what? It's just like Lillian said, it has nothing to do with the left wing. What people say is political, it's purely fanaticism. He has these fanatic, rabid fans, and you gotta be careful who you go after, because some people, they run with a tight crew. And if they do.
Exactly. And I also saw Green Machine there said it's the new swatting, which like it totally is. It totally is. Instead of like calling, the SWAT team to come to your house, they pile on you somewhere else. It is.
Wow. Let's do this. BK from the Rockies is an amazing dude, amazing friend to have. And he always makes sure that everybody gets a chance to shine on the channel, even if I'm too busy talking. And that's one of the reasons we appreciate him so much. He wants everybody to make sure that they subscribe to your channel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on the screen as well here. Did you share our link on your Facebook?
I have Facebook open right now. I'm about to do it. I just don't want I have like since I have two browsers open, I don't know, my computer's acting like handle this. I don't want to like.
Well, what year MacBook Pro are you running?
Sorry?
I'm running a MacBook Pro 2. Mine is about a year old.
Oh no, I have like a 5-year-old MacBook Air.
Can I encourage you? Don't cheat yourself. Treat yourself. It's been 5 years. Sell that one. Go on and get yourself a nice MacBook Pro. Even get a 13-inch one with minimum memory is a workhorse.
I've been looking at this 13-inch. I've been like watching some videos on YouTube of people reviewing them, but I can't decide if I want to get another laptop or if I want to get a desktop. So I'm trying to hold out. Because since I also I've been doing like my web series, and I've been doing like sort of documentary clips, and my computer just needs like a lot more power.
You're doing a web series.
So sorry.
You're doing a web series?
Yeah. So I just wrapped up season 2 of my web series. It's called The Black Americans. There's a Black Americans playlist. For those of you guys that see on the screen, I have playlists up there. So The Black Americans is basically, and I would love to have you on if you ever want to come on.
Yes, I would. Listen, if you don't think I was about to whore myself out and say, can I be on one of your shows?
I would love to have you on. It's basically, I do sit-down conversations with Black Americans, and we just talk. Like, we just sit and talk. We sit in person. Sometimes we drink. Sometimes it's right there, Black Americans playlist.
Where? Wait.
So if you can see Black People Travel, Reviews and Recap, Black Americans right there. Yeah. So I sit down with Black Americans and we talk. I try to do minimal editing, which I tell people in advance, like whatever you say, like if you come on and say you want to kill your boss, like I probably won't edit that out, like just so you know. So I do minimal editing. I felt like there wasn't enough dialogue, with Black Americans, with us talking to each other and talking about things that we think about and that matter to us. And so I started doing this series, and I just wrapped up season 2. So we're getting ready. We were supposed to be getting ready for season 3, but now everything is like all up in the air. But.
Well, let's do this. I want to tell everybody about the video you did that is, let me close this, is what brought you to my attention, because you did a 10-minute video that hit very close to home. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, hold on, I'm gonna go even deeper. Before we get too far away from the other subject, I want to show you the keyboard. If you decide to get another MacBook Pro, mm-hmm. don't get the most recent version with the bar at the top.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on a second. I'm going to put a picture up here for you so that you can see exactly the one I'm talking about, because these things, the ones that are new, only have a C port extension. I believe it's called It's not a micro USB, it's a C USB, and it has 4 C USBs. The problem with that is that you have to have some kind of an external dock in order to use all the drives that naturally come with the MacBook Pros that we have now. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want. You want to make sure you have all the keys, all the keyboard, and you want to make sure you have all the things on the side that allow you to plug in all your peripherals.
Yeah, I need more. Like my one that I have now only has, I have 2 USB, and I need more. I would like 4.
That's the keyboard you want to get.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure. But it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. Sister Kenna, who is a global awesome woman, travels all over the world right now, is in South Africa. I think she's going to have like 3 citizenships.
Wow.
Let's see. She wants to wait. Wait, what?
I said, where are you living?
Me?
Yeah.
Or her?
You.
I've lived in about 15 countries, but right now I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I live in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm a permanent resident. I would have my passport to be Brazilian, but not a Brazilian, to actually be a citizen, but the coronavirus. In any case, Brazil is where I decided to make my second base of operations. Which leads us directly into the conversation that brought you to my attention. And this is something that hit close to home because a huge chunk of my friends are bilingual people, and we all have had different experiences with it and different reasoning. But you did this. You actually said, should Black children be bilingual?
Yep.
And I forwarded this to a bunch of my friends earlier to kind of prime the pump so that they would know where we were going. Let me do this first. Before I go into it from my side or with any questions, I want you to kind of state your central conceit on what you had against it, if using against is even the correct word, so that you're not misunderstood by me or anybody on the team.
Right. So, well, kind of a little of the backstory for that video was I've just been having a lot of conversations with people that feel like Black Americans, and especially like Black American children, need to learn another language in order to be, I guess you could say, competitive, and to also be able to compete in a more global marketplace, be it the global marketplace of ideas, be it for jobs, be it so that we're able to live more different places. And I have lived in Miami, and so I've seen firsthand that, like, for example, in Miami, a lot of the jobs require you to be bilingual. They require you to speak Spanish. And there was like some people that feel like that's not fair. They feel like, we live in the United States, we live in America, and that the predominant language is English, so that they feel like it's not fair to have a language requirement for a job or things of that nature, and that this is going to be another way to sort of lock Black Americans out of things and to sort of keep us behind and keep us on the bottom. So I kind of feel like you had one camp that sort of almost felt like, well, Black Americans just have to kind of roll with the punches and do whatever we need to do to sort of be more competitive, up to and including, enrolling our kids in dual language schools and Duolingo programs. And then you had sort of this other camp that felt like, that's not fair. We shouldn't have to. Like, we already are kind of the underclass of the United States, and even, globally, if you want to even take it there, and that we should focus more on, especially in the United States, getting what we're even owed here before we start conceding, to the dominant, I guess you could say, society and changing, like, oh, we have to change and learn another language, learn Spanish. Or a lot of people said Spanish and a lot of people said Mandarin. Those were like the top 2 languages that people spoke about. Before we've even gotten what we've owed for, building this country, they're already telling us, it's a new set of rules that we have to learn to play by, and that is not fair. I felt like I could see both sides. I felt like I could really see both sides. One of my best friends, who was one of the people that sparked the conversation. She lives here in the US, she lives in Maryland, and she has her daughter enrolled in a dual language school. It's, I want to say, English and Mandarin, because she specifically wants her daughter to be able and prepared to be on a level playing field. And especially, you know, if she decides globally, if she wants to get into business or if she wants to get into other things, she feels like it's important for her to learn. And we got into not an argument, but a passionate discussion because I said, you know, I get that. But again, it's there is a part of me that feels like, it's just not fair. It's just not fair. Like, we already, like, if we're talking about ways for us to get competitive, like, it does seem like it is going to be used as another way to lock us out. And that, like, my friend's her daughter's school costs like a ton of money, you know? So it's like, does everybody have the resources to be able to enroll their kids in these type of programs? Which then there were people that were in the comments, because I brought that up in my video. And then there were people in the comments that were like, you know, you can teach your kids on YouTube. You can teach them, you know, all different types of ways. There's all different types of resources at your disposal. This is just another tool, you know, for your children. Can't really argue against that. There seems like there's a lot of discussion and a lot of different opinions on what's best. So I don't have children. I'm not a parent. So I want to just like make that known, since we started off talking out about kids. But I can't say that, you know, when I'm in LA, my semi-conversational Spanish, it does help me. I can't say that it doesn't. You know, when I'm in Miami, it does help me. I can't say that it doesn't. But I also do understand the people that say, you know, well, we're Black Americans. We've been living in Miami for decades, and now we don't speak Spanish, so we're being pushed out, you know. Or you could even get into like the Haitians versus the Cubans, you know, like the language being used as a barrier to actively push Black people out. And that sucks, and I can't get behind it. It's just like multifaceted topic. Let me get my water. So that's kind of what led to the conversation, and I feel like that was mostly what I touched on in the video. I really don't know. Like, when I have a kid, I don't know. I really don't know. It's like so hard. Oh, I see BK from the Rockies. She's so right. I've dealt with so many Americans in my life that genuinely don't want folks to speak multiple languages. Unfortunately, it's small-minded mentality, in my opinion. It's almost like it is a tool, and it's like you can't argue against having more tools in your arsenal, right? It's like you should try to have as many tools as possible, but there is a part of you that feels like you have to have more tools than the other person just because you're Black, and that's fucking annoying. Go ahead, yeah.
I just met you. I can say I already love you, and I say, dear sister Sarah, I strongly disagree with 99% of everything you just said, but my disagreement comes from having lived a global experience.
Right.
I have long held on this channel, and I will post some of the past videos I've done. I believe that for any downtrodden people, having a second language is the keys to the door out. I believe that you are correct and justified in being angry that being Black means in every instance doing twice as much work for half as much credit. The problem is the ratio changes once you're abroad. See, racism is everywhere in the world. There's no place that's a paradise for Black people, but there's a difference between a racism in America that says I can be shot in the face by any white person, be they law enforcement or just a regular citizen, and in Brazil where they're like, hey, you're Black, and they might act weird all the way until I say, well, listen, I'll just negotiate the price with you, and if we come to an agreement, I'll pay 6 months in advance instead of 4. Not all racism is equal. Because I can speak a second language, I can tell you it opens up doors and avenues to other groups of Black people who, like, it brings a peace to my heart to have Black African friends who I can converse with loosely in Portuguese, who talk to me about what it's like to live in a country where the good guys and the bad guys are just all Black. I can tell you that for a child, especially a Black child, who already have the cards stacked against them. To have a second language under your belt, let's do it from a pragmatic point of view. I'm someone who retired after 9 years of being a financial professional. It allowed me many years ago to semi-retire at 37 and a half years old. I'm 40. I'll be 43 in July. I can tell you that one of the, what'd you say?
I said happy early birthday.
Thank you, July 26th. I can tell you that I'll give you a scenario that I've seen played out, and I have some people that I've reached out to that I want to come and talk to me about that experience. I have a friend who has 2 daughters that are 8 years old. They were talking to me about how she and her husband are just scratching their heads because in 10 years, they don't know how they're going to help these kids through college. I said, do you realize if as a family, and I don't mean send your kids, but if as a family, you decided to learn a second language together and over 10 years became fluent, even if you never got to leave, and people hire me to do a lot of coaching with them, even if you do nothing but become fluent in one other language, be it French, German, Brazilian, Spanish, did you know that at 18 years old, your daughters can apply to college anywhere in the world, and even if they are not allowed to have any free rides, if they are not given any scholarships, and all you have to do is pay their full tuition plus airfare and food, you'll be paying 10% of what you would pay in the United States for an equal education. Most people don't know that. Nobody's telling us. By the way, I've been traveling the world for many years. I've traveled the world since I was 18 years old. Middle-class white people have been doing things like this since before you and I were born. We just don't know it as an option. Sister Kenneth said, is language the only extra tool Black people need? Probably not. However, I do want to learn one of the South African languages because I'm seeing where it is beneficial here. Zulu is what I'm planning. Oh, and by the way, when I said training, I also want to tell people this is one of the other things that I do, and this is going to be for those of you who know who I am, who know some things I've done. I started a Patreon. I've worked with people. I'm not going to go through the vanity-filled effort of reading through all the things that I do, but I'm going to put a link in the
cutthroat.
I'm going to put a link. Yeah. There's an arrogance level, cutthroat level, and arcane consultant level, and I had to really limit that to 5 slots. 3 of them are already full. I'm fortunate, and I think that you are fortunate enough to be someone with enough diverse life experience, connections, and ability to be able to guide people in the things that you've done as well. I can tell you that I have a cousin who's dealing with a health issue right now, okay? In the United States, she's probably going to die in 5 years. I said, even if nothing goes right for you, why not come to Brazil? Or I can take you to any of the countries I've been with a globalized modern healthcare system that just says, if we can give you any medicine that takes your 5 years and gives you not 10, let's say it gives you 8 years, because you fluent in our language and you can do the paperwork, we'll just give you the medicine for free. Do you know how many people, and shout out again to a lot of people call him the general. Tailor-Made is somebody who he comes here a lot. I have a great deal of respect for him, and I'm just showing this to show everybody his name so you guys can go follow his channel.
Tailor-Made.
I can tell you, I'm going to make sure I put that link up later. I can tell you that as a financial professional, it's like someone tied me to a tree and remember when they beat LeVar Burton until he said, Toby, right? Mm-hmm. You can go into the financial business believing that good things happen to people who are modest with their savings and do things correctly. It doesn't. I had too many clients that I know did the right thing, saved their money, put money away, blah, blah, blah. And because of one hiccup in the government or their health or the health of their family, they die living in a place where they are fed cat food tied to a rocking chair. I'm not playing that game. Even if I grow to be an old man who forces the neighborhood kids to sit around and listen to me tell stories about what it was like climbing Mount Fuji and running with the bulls in Spain, I'm going to do it in a place where, because I can speak the language, I can get a halfway decent healthcare system. I can get medicine ahead of time. That's just the pragmatic side. But let's talk about the professional side. Having 2 languages opens up 2 avenues of business. I have friends that are fluent in 2 different languages. They can become an intermediary. And one of my business mentors when I was a young man, he knew someone they called a Mr. 1%. Do you know how much money there is to be made by a professional person that can simply broker deals between a buyer, a seller, a needer, a wanter, two companies that don't know the other guy exists, and you say, listen, whatever the deal you guys make is, you're going to give up 0.05%, and you're going to give up 0.05%, and that's going to be my salary, my fee.
Consultation. I've done a little consultation, and there's a lot of money.
They look at you like you're a savior. And again, we have the privilege of being culturally American, speaking American English, and being fluent in another language.
So I have a question. Do you think that Black Americans should abandon the United States?
I get asked this question all the time, dear sister Sarah, and I'm glad you asked. Black people and Native American people, who break my heart even more, owe America nothing. As soon as you listen, I left the United States. I had enough foresight and guidance in my life. I purchased as much university as I can afford. I have no debt. I have no children, but even if I did, I know I wouldn't have a baby mama. I have nothing to stop me back. And as soon as I could, I got the fuck out and stayed gone for longer and longer periods of time until I figured out how to put myself together internationally. I owe America nothing. I'm one of those people that some would call extreme. If you are a Native American, if you are a Black American, you should be exempt from taxes. You should be exempt from military service. Because what else can we take from you? Oh, my country. When are we ever fully American? That's my question.
Do you think that the country and the government owes us?
Yes.
Not that we owe them necessarily. We don't owe them nothing. But that they owe us.
Where language can be both a weapon and a shield, especially for Black people. Preach, Brother Swans. Now, I apologize. I was caught up in the moment.
No, it's okay.
Say it again.
I said we definitely don't owe the country or the government anything, but the country and the government owes us. And so I definitely think that there's also a lot of us that feel like they owe us. We shouldn't leave. That's like letting them off the hook. Like, they owe us. If we leave and we abandon the United States, it's like they got away scot-free. Like they got away free and clear. So I definitely think that there's a lot of us that feel like we're not leaving. We're not going nowhere. We're going to stay here until we get what is owed, basically.
Okay. How do we do this? I'm going to go back to something I love. I love money. And so talking about things in a financial sense helps me a lot. Are you familiar with something called the sunk cost fallacy?
The sunk cost fallacy? No, tell me about it.
Yeah, the sunk cost fallacy, it's when, a good way to describe it is when gamblers are chasing their wins. Costs that have already been incurred by past actions, they cannot be recovered. They are not relevant to future decisions. If you spent $400 last year to replace a water pump, and $2 million spent 5 years ago on a new manufacturing plant, and $1 million spent on research and development 2 years ago, which is the bad idea? You're not going to sit there doing research and development and a new manufacturing plant for a pump that makes you the water pump that you planned and manufactured, but the pump only makes you $400 a year. That's just not a good idea. So what I'm saying is that, yes, if you are Black, you're right. The government owes us a lot of stuff. I'll expect my stuff to get paid back right after they start giving back some of the Indians the shit they promised them before you and I were ever born. It's not going to happen.
So like we are a sunk cost.
Our lives, our way of thinking are sunk cost. I'm going to stay here until I get what I deserve. Really? Really? When do you think that's going to come around? Sketch that out for me. When have you ever seen?
No, I was going to say that I think that it's not necessarily, for some people, can't speak for everybody, obviously, but I think for some people, it's not even necessarily that I'm trying to stick around for what I think I deserve, but I kind of feel like the basis of any type of, I guess you could call it revolutionary movement, is not even necessarily that I'm going to get what I deserve, but that it's possible my children are going to get what they deserve, or my grandchildren are going to get what they deserve. And so I feel like for a lot of people, it's that, they don't want to abandon ship, because they feel like as long as I'm here and I'm fighting, there's still a possibility that even if I don't get it, my children might get it, or my children's children might get it. And so they can't give up. I just feel like that's like a different.
But here's the question. What are your children? What are your children gonna get? Like, if your
well, right now
children,
people are fighting for reparations. They want reparations. That's like the first thing that comes to mind. Like,
okay,
people want reparations.
So we know the United States has a precedent of paying reparations. We've paid reparations to the Japanese for their internment camps, right? We still haven't been paid reparations. We know the United States can break off large stimulus checks to all of America, but they haven't paid us. At what point do we let go of this thing about reparations? And I would even go so far as to say, if you're looking at, hey, if I do have children or grandchildren or nieces and nephews or just little cousins or just little black kids I see in the street that I want to have a better future, give them the future of not worrying about being shot in the face or incarcerated. Give them a future that says, I've got two doors in front of me, whereas most people have one. Give them a future where from childhood you say, listen, there's more than this to the world, and I want you to be able to. I was fortunate. I'd lived in 14 countries before I lived here. And when I say lived, I mean between a year to 2 years. I will go all over the world. And then I found where I wanted to be, started focusing on the language. And that was the benefit that I had for all those guys who looked just like me, who were the big black buck that was lynched, castrated, hung. They didn't die so I could have to stay sitting eating my lunch under the same tree they were hung under. They died so I could choose where I wanted to have my lunch. If I want to stay there and chop down the tree, great. But I can't see any of my dead ancestors being angry that I just got the fuck out.
I don't think they would be angry that you got out. If you wanted, if you want to leave and chop down the tree, that's fine. But I do also think on the flip side of that, you also have people that they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave their family members. They don't want to leave their friends, or they don't want to leave, I just know a lot of people that probably wouldn't want to leave their family members. Like, they feel like leaving their family members, let alone, totally leaving their country in the United States and never coming back it's not an option, So I feel like for the people that can't leave, there should still be an element of things have to be improved here. We can't just abandon ship, because what about the people that can't leave? What about the people that literally can't? It's kind of like, well, I can leave and like I can get mine and I'm going to be good and my kids are going to be good and my family's going to be good. Too bad that like you can't get out of, Opalaka. Sorry, can't help you. I feel like that there has to still be some type of fight back home, wherever back home is for anyone. I just don't think I can get behind, maybe on an individual level, but I can't get behind like, well, basically we're just going to abandon ship for ourselves, because there's people that literally can't leave. Okay. What about them?
So here we go. We're going to go 2 points and a challenge.
Okay.
One, you said, I feel bad for my cousin back in Appalachia. Here's the thing. I was born in Niagara Falls, New York. Florida. That's the last census. I was born in Niagara Falls, New York. It's a place where our great-grandparents had a nice city. Now it's a place where no one stays there unless they had no way to get out. I have people who I love dearly who will never be able to leave. The only thing I can do for them is be the lighthouse that says, if you ever do make the decision to be as selfish as your cousin YusefWateef was and say, I'm going to have to save myself so that maybe I can reach back and be that lighthouse for somebody else to save themselves later. But, two drowning men can't save each other.
This is actually a really interesting conversation, because I was just having
it's almost like I do this.
I was just having a similar conversation with my really good friend. I have like a really, really, really good friend that went to Yale. It was their first year at Yale. They were going there for art. They're from like a really, really rough neighborhood. And when my friend went to Yale, that was basically how they felt. Like, I'm going to go to Yale. I'm going to be like the lighthouse. I'm going to be able to like, show people that like you can get out, and hopefully I'll be able to like reach back and whatever. But the conversation that we ended up having was that my friend has actually become disillusioned with that and felt like, is that even really possible? Like, is it really possible? Like, just because what my friend basically said was, just because I'm going to Yale doesn't mean that any of my niggas are going to be able to go to Yale, and me going to Yale doesn't necessarily make my niggas think that Yale is something that's possible for all of them. It's just like I went and that's it.
Think of it this way. I'm going to paraphrase terribly a great author. Are you familiar with Neil Gaiman?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Neil Gaiman wrote in every conceivable genre and is amazing and has won awards for it. Probably one of his most creative and well-known is The Sandman. Have you read The Sandman?
I have not read the Sandman.
Oh, I'm gonna have to get you some Sandman. Really,
Yeah, give me some.
You will be up all night reading because it is one of the single greatest pieces. It's literature that's so good they had it banned from the comic book into the comic book section because it was winning literary awards that people who didn't write in the comic book genre thought they should get.
Anything that's banned, I can support.
It's banned in a way that they said they have to put him in a different category. Well, he said something once. He said, "We don't teach children fictional stories about fighting dragons to teach them that dragons are real. We teach them fictional stories about fighting dragons to teach them that dragons can be beaten." Mm-hmm. Just because somebody went to Yale or moved to Brazil doesn't mean I want any of my cousins back home to go to Yale where your friend went or move to Brazil where I am. But what it can tell them is that you can go somewhere. I probably have a cousin right now that maybe he saw a video of somebody in Oman. I got a buddy from Oman who comes on the channel. Maybe they saw something in the desert and said, you know what? I can do that. When you say that they're not all going to make it, you're right. We're not all going to make it. But I can't think of any group of people. One of the great lies that the dominant society and white society has allowed to be pulled over on everybody else is that they're this monolithic group of all successful people who all help each other 100%. No, their failure rate is equal to ours. It's just not the to make it on television.
Absolutely not. And I hate that lie, for the record. Oh, bye. I hate that fucking lie too, because I also feel like that lie is sort of used to, anytime we try to have conversations like this, I definitely feel like that lie is used. Like, white people they all are successful and they all monolithically support each other and they all never fight and they never have any problems. And blah, 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 blah,
blah. We do, except their problems don't end up on the news. So what I say to you is this. You said, if I save me, well, my question is, if you don't save you, if you don't get out, what are you doing for them? So you can all watch each other drown and flail?
No, absolutely not. But I think that it's becomes a matter of what are the various, if we're sticking with like the drowning analogy, I feel like it becomes what are the various methods of saving yourself, I guess. It's sort of like, sure, you can you can attempt to swim to shore. You can attempt to swim to the buoy. If you have the life raft on, there's sort of there's like a one size fits all. And so I feel like some people would feel, I really feel like I can see like both sides. Like some people would feel like, leaving the United States or whatever is abandoning ship and it's abandoning the people that can't leave. And obviously, yes, you have to like save yourself. You have to put your own, mask on first before you help others. But I do think that there are some people that would say like, sure, again, like learning another language and moving to another country is one tool in an arsenal of tools. Some people would also say that, maybe remaining in your neighborhood is another tool in an arsenal of tools. If we're just talking about learning another language, for example, some people might say that learning another language and then returning back to your old neighborhood to teach more people in the neighborhood that language so that they can then spread it around might be another tool. On an episode of the Black Americans, we were just kind of talking about this, it's strategy. It's strategy.
Here's the trick. You said learn a second language, go master it in another country and come back. Here's the dirty little trick. This is a trick that I'm going to try to play on you. I'm telling you ahead of time. I'm going to play this trick on you. And one day my trick is going to work. And then I'm going to say, I got you. When you do leave the United States and you do get to live abroad and you can speak another language, you're not going back.
Why don't you want to go back?
Because once you've seen, my friends and I, we used to call it around the corner. Once you've lived in a place where you can be judged on the merit of your worth as an artist, as a YouTuber, as a critic, as an author. Hold on, do you guys know that hold on, let me show everybody. When I say as an author, I didn't just say that like out of the side of my face. So about that, a year of contemporary essays on race and culture.
That's my book.
Go check that out. But when I tell people that
I'm actually working on a second one, and guess what it's about?
This is where I would say something vulgar, but we're not friends on that level yet.
It's relevant to something, it's relevant somewhat to what we're talking about. It's on travel.
What are you writing?
I'm not gonna tell you. Artists don't. I can't talk about it until it's like fully. Writers are weird and neurotic. I can't talk about it until.
Why don't you pull a Baldwin and move to another country while when you get your first draft done, can I trick you into moving somewhere in the world? And for the record, wherever you want to go, I got somebody on my team out there.
It wouldn't be a trick. When I say that I really see both sides, I'm really serious about it. Like
you smell the pudding, but you haven't tasted it yet.
Yeah, I haven't. No, I haven't tasted it yet. Like one of my really good friends a couple of years ago moved to Berlin because like she's chronically ill. And she just, when you gave your example about medicine and health, like one of my very good friends who's an artist moved to Berlin because she's chronically ill and she just can't get the treatment that she needs in the United States.
If she was rich, but she's
maybe if she was rich, but she's not, she's not. She's a starving artist. And like in Berlin, for example, I know for a fact that like they gave a lot of artists, they gave them like a lump sum of like anywhere between like $5,000 and $10,000. The government gave it to them because it's like, we know like COVID-19 is like canceling your art. So it was like they have a social safety net there. I'm not denying that. Like I can't deny that. Like I know that firsthand. One of my really good friends that we've been friends since I was like a teenager, he's like constantly traveling. Like technically he still lives in the United States, but he doesn't really have a place here because he's like never here. He's always basically moving and like living all these different places abroad. So I totally like get it. I smell the pudding, yes, but I have not tasted it.
So here's where I want to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you just in this last hour, there are people that I can vouch for, right? Russell Taylor of the Dominican Republic. I can vouch for him. If you got out of America, I can speak up and say he would probably have a couch for you based on my recommendation. Mm-hmm. I'd like you to go out there and just talk to these Black people that have lived abroad over there.
I want to.
I want you to come
all their information and yours too.
Kenna has traveled the world many times over. I'd like for you to go spend a month on her sofa. Mm-hmm. Right? And I can facilitate this. People watching me know I don't talk slight. I want you to come to Brazil, hang out with me. Matter of fact, I want you to come to Brazil in late January, so you can see the 3 weeks before Carnival when we have the ensayos, which are these giant house parties where not house parties, but where they do all the training and all the planning before the actual Carnival.
I mean, like two of my closest friends since I was in junior high school have both actually lived in Brazil. They both speak fluent Portuguese. And like one of them went on, this is in DC, one of them went on to actually, work for the government with that, and she was able to do that because she does speak fluent Portuguese and she has experience living abroad. So she's able to facilitate a lot of different things. I just feel like, I've done 2 cross-country road trips now for the Black Americans as well. And I don't know, like, I just feel like, especially having seen up close, like I've been all through Chicago, I've been all through Detroit, I've been all through like all these various places. And it's, again, there is almost a sense of like abandonment, like people have abandoned the cities, they've abandoned the towns, and they've abandoned the Black people that live there and that are still there that can't get out. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Abandon them first? The local and federal governments abandoned them when they made sure they would get inadequate housing, inadequate healthcare. Flint, Michigan is still drinking dirty water. The government abandoned them. You're not a coward for leaving a burning house.
You're not. I was just in Flint. I did an episode of the Black Americans there in Flint. I was there last year. It's true, but it's at the same time, it's like they can't get out of the burning house.
So here's the problem. So
what do we do?
Ethically obligated to burn with it. Do you? And when I say this, I say
I might. I'm going to be 100% honest.
You got that survivor's guilt.
Survivor's guilt?
Watch this. So here's the challenge. I raised a couple points. I also want to raise a challenge. I would ask you, hold on, watch this. People, this is our Patreon.
This is a good comment. I see your comment, Swans. Black Americans are caged birds in the States. Black Americans can use the status you get from being from America and easy access to the economy as a citizen. Leaving is creating options. The fight is global. Costs about $65 a month to rent a small studio in Hernandarias in Paraguay on the border with Brazil and Argentina.
And by the way, the food and the weather is better. Now watch this. I'm going to put that on there, and I want everybody to check this out. Check this game out. You've got a Patreon with $1 and $5, and you got 83 patrons, right?
Yeah.
You're making $231 a month on Patreon. Great. Here's my challenge. I want you to add another tier, right?
Okay.
For another $5. On that $5, I want you to do, I don't know. Actually, I take that back. I want you to add a $50 tier for a 1-hour consultation with you because of your diverse life experience, and tell them that consultation is going to go directly towards your living abroad to finish the book.
Okay. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget none of it.
A $50 tier, and every penny of it goes to you living abroad to finish your book for 3 months, a month in some place like the Dominican Republic with me, maybe, because here's the thing, you're talking about travel. I'm putting you in the game with some heavy hitters, people like Russell Taylor and Kenner and me. We have been around the block and back again. We know somebody everywhere, and I'm actually going to give you another incentive. You see this $231 a month? For people who don't know, in the United States, I have some people watching this from every place. If you live in the United States and you have $231 extra a month, you are still going to be fighting a homeless person for a blanket on your bridge.
Sorry.
Like, you're some hobo. But watch this.
You're going to use that $231 a month to like make a shank.
You've got $231 in Brazilian and Brazilian real. Okay, how much is that converted now? So that means the rates right now. I'm going to look at you and give you the purchasing. That's 1,238 Brazilian real. You with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you with me, right? 1,238. All right. Now, watch this.
Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. Many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. I do agree that people need to travel. In my opinion, learning the language helps you engage more fully.
My rent.
Oh, you know, that reminds me of something else.
My rent in Sao Paulo, Brazil, 15, and we'll have a different conversation about locations in the neighborhood, people who know Avenida Paulista. My apartment is 15 minutes away, okay? I'm going to show you what $250 a month gets me apartment-wise in Brazil while I can still do my work and I'll show people what I do later, as an editor, copy editor, proofreader, right? I have a very small, check out the bachelor pad. Look at that.
Check out the bachelor pad. You would love my friend Kenneth. You would love him.
I chose not to get some big fancy, high rent area. I mean, don't judge. I don't care if y'all do, but for me, somebody who spent most of his time pre-COVID, I'm out, I'm in the gym lifting weights. I'm downtown, my friends drinking coffee on the corner, training in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I got my little non-matching couch covers there. I didn't even get the walls painted. They were like, hey, you can give us $50 to paint the walls. I was like, I don't paint it because I'm not going to be here. This is what I got. That's $250. And you wonder why so many Black people who are already underpaid and underbanked, but who are educated or at the very least smart enough to know they're being tricked, say, why should I stay here? Because listen, I had a big house in Las Vegas, Nevada when I was a financial professional, 4 bedrooms, swimming pool, hot tub, parties every weekend. The pool man alone to clean my pool, I paid him $250 a month. And then when you work with money long enough and you realize I could keep working, I was making a good chunk of money, but I was saving 10% of my income there. Whereas here, and let me show everybody what I do in case you don't know. And this ties into you being an author. I'm an editor, copywriter, proofreader.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What do you think of the people that feel like living abroad specifically to take advantage of the differences in currency and the differences? Like I see Swan said, it's so cheap to live abroad and have a lot more time if someone wants to write. $231 a month, right, is a bit more than a minimum wage. What do you think of the people that say that that's morally wrong, like that's arbitrage, it's taking advantage of a destabilized. Like there's some people that would say Brazil has been destabilized by the United States government. And so Americans moving to Brazil in order to take advantage of the destabilized, economy and financial marketplace and to take advantage of that it's taking advantage of poverty. There's some people that feel like that's morally wrong.
Hold on, let me do this. I'm going to come right back to that. And then first I want to answer your question. Let me get a little close up on this one. It is arbitrage, and to be specific, and if you have any friends that feel that way, I want you to cut to the 1 minute and 20-second mark of this video specifically so they can hear me say, fuck them. I'm not built to suffer.
You'd be like, and that's that.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to spend my time training in jiu-jitsu. I'll never be a world champion, but I got enough time and money to do it. And I say this as an educated American who worked in corporate America in investments and insurances. Do you know what I taught people who had a lot of money? How to legally, if unethically, put their money in places where they couldn't be taxed. But do you know what they taught me during that time? Because I'm showing them technical aspects. I had a lot of older folks said, listen, Watt, you got your head wrapped on the right way. Let me put you in the game, young man. Don't play this game. You think that all the successful Black people that you see on news, sports, and television actually live in America?
I don't think they do a lot of things they claim they do.
No, but whoa. They never claimed they lived in America.
That's
you just
true.
assume they did. As soon as they could put themselves in a situation to make their dollars go farther, because again, what did my wealthy clients teach me? While I'm putting their money in cash value life insurance to save it from taxes, they were teaching me, you go where the money is good. You put your money in places where it goes farther. Let poor people worry about whether it's right or wrong. You worry about whether it's legal or illegal. You wonder why I can have a big, belligerent fucking mustache?
Black Americans are poor people. It's
right.
We are poor people that get left holding the bag.
Brother Nathan, I'm going to talk to you after the show because he and I have a great professional relationship as well as friends. I'm helping him get out of the game. Say goodbye to Nathan pretty soon. But here's the thing.
Nathan's about to disappear.
Nathan is on the verge. Y'all don't know. And somebody going to call me and say,
all the time.
Is Nathan in America anymore? I'll be like, I don't know. But here's what I'm getting at is the only people who worry about whether they should or shouldn't do the right thing for them and then their family are poor people. Let me say that again for the folks in the back row. Poor people worry about what other people think about making sure that they've got the best for themselves and their family. Everybody else, that small majority of people who can say, get this, right? When I worked in the financial business, I was saving 10% of my income, which is better than most Americans. But once I learned how to arbitrage, what do you call it? Arbitrage? Yeah. Once I arbitrage my money, I save a significant amount more. And I don't work any less or less hard. And what I was showing folks earlier, I'm an editor, copy editor, proofreader. I do coaching for public speaking because my clients tend to be the executive, the CEOs of companies that have to go do a presentation in the United States. When you catch up with me on LinkedIn, anybody who wants to meet me on LinkedIn, YusefWateef Thornton, skip my resume. My resume is fun. Go to recommendations. You see, this is where other business professionals put their hand on my shoulder and say, he has his shit together. Pay this man what he asks for. These are people who professionally, under their names and their jobs, say, hire this man. I can take that anywhere in the world. So now what happens when I'm still earning the kind of salary I did in the United States for fewer hours of work, and I can save a significantly higher percentage than 10? That turns into me being able to show people like you and show people like Brother Nathan that there is a way out.
So I think that it just comes down to, not you personally, but I feel like it comes down to, do people feel more, which do you want to do? I guess you kind of want to try and basically play the game and like win, or do you want to try and end the game or, dismantle the game? Something of that nature, I guess you could say. Because like I said, there's a lot of people that would say, like, basically what you're saying is like, play the game and win and get out, like,
yes.
That's that. But then there are some people that would just feel like, we can't. Yeah, I saw this coming too. Taking advantage of the currency exchange is capitalism. People do it all the time in the U.S. My thing again with capitalism is I feel like capitalism is not sustainable. What do we do when we get to the end? If this is a game that we're playing at a certain point,
can I answer?
Answer. The game gets to the end, and again, it's going to be the poor people, primarily the Black Americans, left holding the bag.
Okay. No. See, this is where we got to cut that shit. It's not going to be the Black people holding the bag. It's going to be the poor people. right? And by poor, this is how I learned to define rich and poor as a financial professional. And you can agree or disagree, it's up to you. Are you able to save 20% or more of your income and have at the same time 6 months of all living expenses, including dining nights out, all you spent in the past 6 months, add that number up, and have that in cash or in investment reserve that you can liquidate in a moment's notice? Those are what people that haves cause. But when capitalism comes to an end, the unfortunate reality is those of us who are able to squirrel away our resources will win again. Because when the world goes down to zero, I don't go to the same zero. My cousin, who's a blue-collar worker, a decent man, a good father, but decided to stay at home, decided he wanted to work for a company where he's working 50 hours a week to make $60,000 to $70,000 a year, which is a good salary, until you factor in the cost of living in America, the cost of healthcare, the fact that he's not going to be able to save that 10% now that he's got a daughter. Then you've got some dirtbag like me who said, why don't I just make a lot less than you and save almost all of it? Who wins? And this isn't some layman
playing the game either way.
Right? No, I'm not playing the. Well, I'll concede. Yes, I'm playing the game.
It's sort of like higher level versus lower level. It's like
not higher level versus lower level. I'm playing the game from the perspective of someone who's trying not to fall off the top, as opposed to some. It's much easier to stay afloat than it is to get afloat.
Computer went to sleep. Sorry.
It's much easier to stay afloat than to start floating. The old analogy that it takes billions of foot-pounds of pressure to get an airplane to take off, but not nearly as much to keep it level, that's true financially. And I say this clearly and objectively. I'm not talking to you as a layman. I'm talking to you as someone who worked as a financial professional for 9 years. That's where I learned all this stuff. And it just beat all notions of niceness or equality or the good people have anything. All that went right out of my head. I realized money is the single most important thing in life. Let me say that again. Money is the single most important thing in life, because when you have it, you breathe easier, you're healthier, you don't have any cracks in your skin. Maybe you're healthier, or maybe
that's only because that's the way that the system is already set up. That's already, so it's like you don't believe that we can like end this, that we can end that. You don't believe that we can like end that or destroy it in any way.
Here's the thing. I'll let you and the good people and the righteous people figure out how to redo the system. And if it doesn't work,
I'll let you end it while you starve, you know, good luck.
Because here's the thing. What happens if you end it, but your hair is white and you spent years of your life chewing down to the bone?
The goal was still accomplished. Man, I wouldn't even care. Like if my hair was white and I was like starved down to the bone, if I could like still see like the end of all this shit, I would still, personally, just me, I would still feel good about it. Like I wouldn't feel like, oh my God, like I wasted my life just for this to happen. I would feel better about it personally. That's just me though.
Here's one of the shout out to BK. He said that apartment is better than the one he had for $700 and it was original. And I have a doorman downstairs. Do I live in some fancy upscale apartment? You saw it. No, it's a simple apartment with a doorman and everything is nice. But watch this. One of the things I learned from my clients who had money is that they spend their youth making the money, but they try to spend more than half their life spending the money and enjoying it. One of the things you never want to be, and this is something that was taught to me by one of my clients who had a lot of money. He said, Watt, you don't want to be in the game so long that by the time you make the money, you don't have the strength of will to still lift weights anymore. Your dick doesn't work because you're so old you can't go fuck the cute young girls you didn't have time for before.
You have to feel the gun.
You know, things like that matter. I got out of the game, or rather started playing the game on a different level where I could still go have fun with the rest of my life. And even if my house burned down around me and I had nothing else in life, actually I wouldn't have nothing because I'm a big cryptocurrency person. I learned how to invest and play with that as well. Even if everything burned down around me, my experience making money means my name alone will make sure I'll never be broke. Because there are people who know me well enough to know YusefWateef cares about money first. So if he says, I've got this idea to start to build my nest egg again, they'll just say, okay. As opposed to one of my cousins who's never built a nest egg, when his house burns down, and let's not say call someone. When he calls me and says, Watt, can I get a loan? I'll say, no, you can't have a loan. I'll give you some money to cover you for a month, but then you can never ask me for anything again. Because I don't want the problem of knowing that you didn't have shit beforehand, so it's not like you can pay me back later. So why don't I go on and pay your mortgage this month for you, pay your car note for you, I'm put some food on the table for your children, but it's going to be very awkward when I tell you never ask me for another penny again. Because if you didn't have anything before everything went to shit, you're not going to have anything after. Conversely, the people who did have something beforehand, like I came to Brazil with the intention of just kind of half-assed working. But when you know how to make money, and I'm going to say something that's not true, but this is true. I'm going to say something that's not true, but this is true.
Okay.
Once you learn how to make money, it's really hard not to. It's really hard not to make money once you're in the habit of making money. You see money in place. It's like when they in the Matrix when he sees the code. When you say, "Oh, well, shit, there's money everywhere. I'll just dip my bucket out in the rain." Now I'm not saying it's easy, but once you know how to make money, once you know how to be a business person, it's very hard not to. But at the same time, if you've never made money, the older you get, you'll never even know it's there. DP Man 39. I'm not even going to ask you what that means.
DP Man 39, are you here from Facebook? Because I did post it on Facebook.
Is he a friend of yours?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't recognize his name, but I'm just saying, he said, I like this dude, like he hasn't seen you. So I'm just wondering if.
Hey, listen, everybody, make sure you share this on Facebook and share it on your Twitter feed. This is how I get great people in. This is how I get great people to chat with me.
I want to ask, so do you feel like your methodology is viable? I guess I'll say viable long-term for, let me go back. How do you feel about, do you think about like Black people as a collective? And so
No.
do you feel, no. So how do you think of it?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if anybody told you, but we're not all the same.
No one told me.
See,
I'm shocked.
We're not all the same. And believe it or not, we're not all going to make it. Here's the thing.
You said, and we're not all going to make it?
Right. The ones who are going to make it are going to be the ones who decided, I'm not built for this life. It can be better. I saw it here in 2020, especially with the internet. It's not like you don't know. It's a matter of whether or not you have the courage to. So when you say, are Black people a group, we are not a monolithic group. There was a time when
not a monolithic group. No, not are Black people a monolithic group. I just mean, when I say are Black people, do you think of Black people as a collective? Where I was going to go with that was that, do you feel like your methodology is something that could be applied to, how do I say it? To the majority of, let's just say Black Americans. Do you feel like your methodology is something that could be applied to the majority of Black Americans to better ourselves on a collective level? Like, hey, if enough people start to do this, that's something that could push us possibly forward, because maybe we have more people learning languages, more people saving money, more people, sort of, again, kind of following your methodology, almost like it's individual things that could lead up to a broader push. Is that something that you think could happen with your
method? Happen?
That's what I mean when I say like a collective. Not that we're a monolith and that we're all the same. That's not what I mean.
You are, that's exactly what you're saying.
How's that what I'm saying?
Because you're saying, I don't want you to think of us as a collective, but then you keep using this giant we with a capital W.
No, I didn't say that. I said that, do you think that number one, I said, do you think that we're a collective? I was just asking. And then I said, do you think that your methodology is something that could be, because I've seen other people say, like, I want to see that, the other comment, like Swans Paul, Black Americans are caged birds. So this is obviously talking about us in the terms of a sense of a collective. Black Americans are caged birds in the States. Black Americans can use the status you get from being from America and easy access to the economy as a citizen. Leaving is creating options, something like that. So it's like, is this something that we feel like could be applied across, not literally every single one, but is this something that could be applied across, like, oh, if you can get enough maybe Black Americans to get on board with this idea of using the status you get from being from America and access to the economy, leaving to create options. Is this something that could be implemented enough that, again, it's like steps that maybe add up to change across a broader level? Not because we're all the same, but like you guys are using Black Americans as an identifier. So I'm just sticking with that.
So let me do it this way. I'll say no because it all starts in the home.
Okay.
I don't want anybody to worry about what everybody else is doing and the collective is doing. If every mother and father decided, or just couple, or just an individual person living at home said, I am going to better my situation. And let's go with the lowest common denominator. You don't have enough money to go to college. You don't want to go into the military. You don't want to go into the police force. You decide, how am I going to better myself? There are so many ways right now to get good at a second language, to the point where I know people, you ever heard that phrase, I'm big in Japan?
Mm-hmm.
There are Americans, and I know some of these people who are huge in other countries, and most people they know at home don't even know they speak another language.
Mm.
And then they wonder, oh, he goes on a holiday for 6 months or so, he travels, I don't know, he's probably living in a hostel, having no idea that this dude is living his best life as an educator or a performer or a famous YouTuber who comes to visit for 6 months. People have no idea that that's out there. And here's the thing, I had to learn this lesson. This is me being bitter. When you come back and you try to say, hey, there's this awesome shit right around the corner, you get ridiculed.
What did you get ridiculed for? What did you get ridiculed for? Like what?
Well, I'm a square and a nerd, and I've never been cool, and that saved me a lot in life. It saved my ass. Like, I didn't realize, my parents told me later in life, we made sure you never had anything cool, because I wasn't any of those things. There was no fear of being ashamed of focusing on school. But at the same time, when my life started to really improve, when I was 19, 18, I left home 2 weeks after my 18th birthday. When I started to see the world, when I started to do those things, I would come back and I'm like, hey, there are these awesome things out there. But now you're talking to people at 25 who peaked in high school. Nobody wants to hear that shit. If you were somebody who was concerned with anything other than being a square during high school and not getting girls pregnant during high school, I know guys that are bitter when they found out that the same girls that they thought made them feel like they were magic and they were cool was banging a lot of guys. Not that women shouldn't. I encourage it. But then they realized all the stuff they put their eggs in to be cool didn't matter. When they found out that being cool in high school is like being the best C-level jiu-jitsu player on the children's circuit. And they never let it go. I still have friends on the internet who post things that we did in high school because that was the best they had.
That's the best time of their lives.
You know, and those people, they don't want to hear a conversation with me about, hey, if you get to come hang out with me, we'll go to Carnival and we'll go to one of those ensayos and we'll go drink coffee on the corner and nobody wants to hear that shit. The only ones who want it are the people who ask.
So you gave up. So you gave up on people.
Wait, say that again?
I said, so you gave up on people.
Yes. Yes. Party time in Brazil, whoever wants to come hang out. And I want to be clear, when I say I'm a square, when I party, there is no drugs, there is no alcohol, there's a lot of cool music, a lot of dancing, a lot of traveling around. Come and hang out with me. So when you say, did I give up? I gave up because when I did the cost-benefit ratio of the years of my life it would take to help people who don't want to be helped versus the enjoyment I get out of helping people who actually ask for it, it's not even close.
I guess that's the difference. The difference is that, like, okay, let's take Bruno Mars. No, that sounds random. But, like, let's take Bruno Mars for an example. I said what I said about Bruno Mars. You would think that like the majority of people that would be upset about that would have been like white people, right? Or whatever, or Filipino, whatever. People like him, Puerto Ricans, whatever. I would say that like the majority of the people that were like really furious and like personally offended were like a lot of black people because like, I don't know, like niggas for some reason like love this man. No offense to any of y'all that like fuck with Bruno Mars, like whatever. So I kind of feel like I could have been like, well, you know what? Like, fuck y'all. Like, fuck y'all. I don't give a fuck. Like, y'all are willing to do this. Y'all are willing to do that. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to talk about race anymore. I'm not going to talk about this anymore, that anymore. Because, like, y'all didn't even, like, y'all were the main ones that was, like, mad at me and, like, not coming to my defense when, people are trying to, like, drag me all over the internet, whatever. But I didn't take that personally. And I felt, and I still don't. Like, I don't take anything, I feel like I just don't take anything personal. So I feel like, for me, what I'm trying to do ultimately is, I don't believe that Black people are a monolith, but I do think that, like, I really liked this comment about, you know, Black Americans are cage birds in the States. I do think of Black Americans as a collective. I definitely think that this was like, I'm going to just read this comment again because I really did like it. Like, Black Americans are cage birds in the States. We can use the status you get from being American and access to the economy as a citizen, leaving as creating options. I think that we definitely need more tools. We need more options, which is why I said I can't argue against, you know, bilingualism as a tool or leaving the United States as a tool. I can't argue against that because we do need more tools. And even though I hate capitalism, I do also, like, I'm in this weird space because, like, I do also understand that, like, we need money, you know, like, people need money.
Well,
we live in a capitalist market. But I guess at the end of the day, I can't feel like I'm abandoning people. I personally can't.
Before I even address how you feel weird or torn, I want to be clear. You are bitter about that Bruno Mars thing.
Me? No, I'm really not. I'm not. I'm genuinely not. Sorry, my shirt keeps getting like sideways. That's why I keep adjusting it. I'm genuinely not bitter about it. I just always use it as an example because I feel like it's a great example, but I'm not bitter about it.
So mad. And let me tell you why I think you're mad. Let me tell you why I think you're still mad about it, because you need to let it go. You're mad because what you said, in your opinion, makes sense, but you're angry that the same people you want to save don't see it.
No, I'm not. I'm really not. You know why I'm genuinely not? Well, number one, like, I don't care about people like that. I'm an only child. I was raised, like how you just said, like all that stuff, for example, about how like you did good in school and, you know, you deliberately didn't have anything cool and all this other stuff. It's like, I did really well in school. I was always super smart. I was always super weird. But the way that like I was raised up was that, you know, I like what I like and what I like is cool. So it's not that the shit that I was into, that I had the belief that it wasn't cool or anything like that. I was raised that like the alien shit that I was into was cool. The witch shit that I was into was cool. The paranormal shit was cool. So I've never had number one, I've never had bitterness about people like disagreeing with the shit that I like, because I just always felt like I don't give a fuck. The shit that I like, I think is cool. You don't have to. And I've really I've like carried that throughout my life with my opinions and my voicing of opinions. I'm not bitter about the Bruno Mars situation. I was surprised. And the reason why I was surprised was really because like Bruno Mars was not that big of a factor in my life. I didn't realize that people liked him this much. They were going to feel so strongly about it. And it also made me sort of dig deeper into a lot of ideas about like Black people and loving non-Black persons of color and, you know, all these different types of things. But I'm definitely not bitter about it. I don't fucking care. And if anything, like Bruno Mars literally like went away and never came back. So it was almost like, oh, I won, I guess. But I just feel like at the end of the day, I don't think that Black people are a monolith. I think that we are all different and we all have our own opinions and people can feel however they want to feel. And how people feel, I feel like ultimately at the end of the day, how people feel is not going to stop me from wanting to see them succeed or get free, how people say that, or, you know, be liberated or do better or move up, stop being at the bottom, stop being the bottom fucking social caste of everything. Like, ultimately, like, that's what I am about.
Here's where we are. If you want to stop being at the bottom, go someplace where you're not. Because here's what I think.
Leave, but we shouldn't have to leave. That's the thing.
You're right. You don't have to leave, but your choices are leave and go someplace where the grass is greener.
That's what I'm bitter about. We shouldn't have to leave.
But here's the thing. There are certain words that I avoid because as a man, I found that they help really to bring me to a next level. Words like should. I don't care what should happen. It's not going to. No one cares about you or I. It's not going to happen. And the worst part about it, and this might be an intersection of why you get a weird feeling about it, every day there are more and more, and I'm going to use a terrible word here. I don't even know what it means. I'm just using it as a bookmarker. smart Black people who are looking at it and saying, why am I in this shit? Because remember, the people that leave, you know, like me
and I don't have nothing against that. I don't have anybody. I said I don't have anything against that. I don't have anything.
Let me finish. Because you're going to watch more and more people who you consider your peers, younger and younger in life, say, I don't need this shit.
And that's fine. And that's fine. I don't have anything against that. I'm just saying that I get that what you're saying about should, but like we shouldn't have to leave. We shouldn't have to leave. Like ultimately, like we built the United States. Ultimately, we even predate the US becoming the US. And no, we shouldn't have to leave. And it's a lot of people that, yes, are going to leave and are going to feel like they can better their chances elsewhere, and are even going to feel like, you know, that they're going to go somewhere, they're going to learn a language, they're going to better their chances, and then they're going to be able to, you know, sort of reach back and like pull people forward or spread that knowledge. And I do think that's great. But I personally I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night feeling like, you know, because for all those people that have the opportunity, because we are ultimately also talking about opportunity, no matter what it is, all those people that have the opportunity to leave, there are like those people in Flint, Michigan that don't have the opportunity to leave. They will never have the opportunity to leave. So I can't just be like, peace, like, fuck y'all, like, I'm out, like, never coming back. Don't give a fuck if I don't have water. No one cares. Like, I just can't do that.
There is a little Black girl in Flint, Michigan who looks just like you, who can look at you and say, I live in a shithole city where nobody cares about me. My parents have no opportunity. But you know what? Maybe if I have something to work towards, if I can learn a different language, get good enough at it where I can go to college someplace else, or just not even go to school, just get on a plane and leave, I have someplace to go where I can start all over again.
You don't think there's a way to create opportunity here?
In the United States, there are ways. Here's the thing. Remember, there's a common denominator, right? That we can never ever leave out of a conversation. Let's say your heart is in a good place. You're going to stay in the United States. You're going to do your best for everyone. You're still running the risk of being shot in the face.
Yes, you are. You ultimately also run the risk of being shot in the face. You don't have to, and you don't have to play that game. But I do feel you are running the risk.
I didn't hear you said you also run that risk something else.
I said you are running that risk, and I don't hold it against you for like not wanting to stay somewhere where you run that risk. Like that's like, I don't hold that against you. That sounds crazy. But I also feel like there are people that are willing, that are like, well, I'm going to accept that risk so that I can possibly have the opportunity to make things better here, even if not for me, for the next person or the next person or the next person. And I feel like I can't hold that against them either. I'm not going to call that person stupid or anything like that.
I don't hold it against. It's just that unfortunate reality that says, at a certain point in life, when we get to an age where we have a little bit of look back time, you're going to start saying, how can I best use my time? And if you best use your time and you realize at a certain point that you can best use your time by simply being happier, you'll resent the time you didn't. I can't tell you how many people I get in my inbox every day.
But that's an individual. That's an individual choice of how do you personally feel you can best use your time.
Give the children a tool.
There are some people that would say my time is not. There were some people that would say my time is not best used by moving abroad to Brazil so that I can stack money. Like there are some people that say that is their best, the best use of their time. There are some people that would say that's not the best use of my time. There's people that would say the best use. I don't know if you know, like the I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but like the Greek philosopher Diogenes, they called him the dog. He like had an issue with like organized society because he felt like it was unethical, and he had issues with like money and like monetary gain and like creating art and like doing philosophy for like gain. So he decided to like literally live his public life as a fucking dog. Like he ate scraps, like he did all these things to try and showcase how money is evil and all these things. He felt that was the best use of his time. And I'm sure he would also say like, I'm leading by example of how like people need to wake up and see that like money is unethical, capital is unethical, our organized society is unethical, everyone is being paid off, all our politicians. That was what he felt was the best use of his time. Now, I don't know, this was like centuries ago. Maybe he got to a certain age and was like, that was so stupid. I should have like took money for art and philosophy and got patrons and like lived nice and sweet, you know, but that was the decision that was made and that he felt was best for him and to show the things that he believed. That's for individuals to determine. Like I can't tell anyone what to do. I feel like I can't tell anyone what to do. Obviously we can lead by example, but ultimately it's up to us individually what we think is the best. And I also, again, it's like for somebody that's an anti-capitalist that doesn't even believe in capital or the free market or believe that these should be things that are allowed, for people that believe that arbitrage is morally and ethically wrong, they're not going to feel like moving to another country and stacking loot is the best use of their time. That's not even maybe how they even think about
money. You look at money as if it's the first thing I'm talking about. The first thing I'm talking about is living in a place where you can actually walk down the street and be judged by what you've done or what you're capable of. It's living in a situation where you are fighting. Because remember, I'm not talking
people that would say they want to create that environment here in the United States.
Right. But I'm not talking about an environment that's any different from the United States. I'm just saying instead of me having to earn $90,000 to $100,000 a year in the United States, I can do it working fewer hours and earning the same equivalent amount here.
Yeah, by taking advantage of the poverty. And some people would feel that.
Wait a minute. Taking advantage of poverty. Do you understand whether you like it or not?
Some people would
whether
feel
you
that
like it or not, you take advantage of poverty. Do you understand? And this is personal, but
hold on. Can I get some water? Because my cup.
Let me do this. Let's do 60 seconds. I'm gonna go pee real quick. I'm still gonna wash my hands. I'll be right back.
All right, right back. I'm gonna get some water. Right back.
Anybody who's watching, this is a good time to go pee.
Yeah, go pee. And I'm back. We're back. I had to get some water. We're about to get to yelling.
You know, what I would look at it and say is that we all have to become comfortable with the level of ethical and moral compromise that we make. Some people are comfortable at 1%. Some people are comfortable at 10%. Because I started traveling so young, I was really exposed to understanding that the way I lived wasn't the way it had to, and it forever jaded me. When you start seeing the world, it was going to bend your mind in a way that I can't describe to you until you've done it. I want us to have this conversation. Actually, I want us to have a wider conversation after you spent a month in a few different countries each. I want us to have this conversation after you start learning a second language. For the record, I have an in at Pimsleur. I don't know if you've ever heard of Pimsleur language programs. You decide where you want to go. I'm going to get you the language pack for it. And I want you to spend 3 months getting conversational language and then go. We don't have to discuss it openly. It can be a private between me and you. Depending on what country you want to go to, I know people that will.
You're trying to challenge me, like, we're going to have this conversation again. Let's see what you
here's
think.
the thing. It's going to sound like I'm attacking you all the way until you go back home. And when you go back home, I'm telling you now what the curse is. The curse will be, once you know that something different is around the corner, you're going to go home and wonder, why are these people acting so strange? And I'll tell you something an older man told me. I was living in Bangkok, Thailand at the time. And he had retired from some big company. And like a lot of people who know how to run businesses, he couldn't not. He ran a paper company in Thailand making, I think he was making holiday cards, whatever it was. He said, let's have coffee before you leave, young man. And I said, great. And then he said, when you get back, I want you to remember something important. It's not them, it's you. And I said, what do you mean it's not them, it's me? He said, when you get back, you'll understand, but we'll talk later. And I understood a few days after I got home. I said, why are these people acting weird? They're not acting weird.
Acting weird?
Huh?
I said, so what do you mean by acting weird? Like,
that's the problem. That's the central conceit that was wrong. They weren't acting weird. I was acting weird because travel permanently changes you.
So how were you acting weird?
Huh?
I said, how do you feel you were acting weird?
Well, in hindsight, it's something as simple as knowing that the rest of the world exists. For an American, that's such a rare thing. You can now have here's what's going to get you. This is the sneaky one, the insidious one. Even if all you do is sit down with somebody like Kenna and talk about music, having conversations with people who have traveled the world.
I've traveled the world. I just haven't lived abroad.
I'm saying
I want to know what is the difference? So I'm asking, like, what do you feel is the difference between living abroad, let's say, versus living in the States? Like living, not just traveling, but living.
Because you're immersed in the culture. When you wake up and get your pancakes in the morning, it's from a restaurant down the road where you're part of a community. When you're living in a country, you're not there on holiday mode. You're there in a mode of transportation that says, I'm part of whatever is going on here. And you realize that everything that you thought of was normal isn't normal. It's just where you live. There is no such thing as normal on a global scale. Most people, this is where their brains start to crack. When they realize there's no such thing as normal. It's just the way we did things where you were from. So now you start to question everything. Because when you go home, you'll say, why do we do it this way? And once you ask that question, you're no longer part of the tribe. Once you ask that question, you're no longer part of the tribe, whether or not you get an answer, because no one else thinks it. It's kind of like there are these two fish swimming around. They're in their young teenagers, 15, 16. They smart. They know everything. And they're swimming, talking trash about the sand. And this big old sea bass flies by and he's swimming. And they say, good afternoon, Mr. Bass. Mr. Bass looks at him. He's got his long whiskers. He says, good afternoon, children. Mighty fine water today, isn't it? And he keeps on swimming. And they said, yes, sir, Mr. Bass. And then when Mr. Bass is out of earshot, they say, what is water?
Well, we've all heard that a fish doesn't know what water is analogy. I just feel like I said, I haven't lived abroad, but I have been lucky enough to travel abroad pretty extensively. So I'm not disagreeing that traveling, and I know that even living abroad, it totally changes your perspective. And I do think it's important to travel and see the way that other people live so that you can have perspective on your neighborhood and the way that you live and things of that nature. I just don't believe that abandoning where you come from is, maybe it's a viable option for some. Of course, it's like an individual level, but I don't really know if I think that that's viable for a lot of people.
Here's the problem. Success isn't viable for most people. No matter how you decide what success is just a rare thing. The people who decide to be a have in life, it's extraordinarily rare.
Well, that some of us feel like we have to continue fighting even for people that don't deserve it and that are never gonna appreciate it. We just feel like we have to anyway.
Then I think that makes you a better person than I am.
I can accept that.
But here's the thing. My rule in life,
but the flip side is you live in Brazil and you save money in different types of ways and all these things. So it is kind of like there's pros and cons. It's based on what do you want and what do you want out of life and what do you feel is important. Hello.
Because,
but
like I said, I'd like for us to have a private chat. You know, not something that we're for public consumption until the cake is ready. You know, just confidentially. And I'd really like to hear you.
We're going to aim to have this chat in Brazil at some point.
Yeah. When are we going to have the chat on your channel? When do I get invited?
Oh, I don't know if I do. I don't know how to do this. I don't do these on my channel. I like to talk in person. So I would like.
Do you know how to use StreamYard, what I'm using with you? Do you know how to use it?
I don't.
I'm going to coach you, and then I want to be your first guest after the new stream. It takes about 15 minutes to show you how.
Yeah, I normally don't do these on my channel. And I like to talk in person because I just feel like talking in person, obviously talking in person has like a totally different thing than talking over the computer. And I want to actually like do want to do episodes of the Black Americans abroad with Black Americans living abroad. That's something that I've been planning on doing. So the allegory of the cave, quite good. A tourist lives in a bubble. Living abroad integrates you into the new society. Leaving the States is not necessarily abandoning. Our fight is global. The fight is not just in the States. I agree that our fight is global and our fight is not just in the States, but I do also feel that how do I say this? Black Americans, maybe abandon is not the right word, but I definitely feel like, especially recently, there's been a lot more sentiment around, you know, wiping your hands of all this bullshit and like, I'm going somewhere else. I'm going to try somewhere else, you know, in a new place. And,
you know
and that, I don't hold that against anyone.
Here's the problem.
Maybe abandon's not a good word.
What is America populated with? Other than Black people and Native American people, it's filled with people who said, fuck it to where they were living. I'm going someplace better.
Right, but we're not those people. I mean, some Black people are, but like I'm not. Like I'm a descendant of American chattel slavery, so I'm not descended from people that came here, you know, voluntarily, that made that choice. For the people that made that choice to come here and, you know, they're descendants of immigrants and stuff, that's sort of a totally different conversation, which is why I say that even though we're not a monolith in a lot of ways, Black Americans are a collective. We have sort of a different history and things of that nature. So I just feel like for a lot of Black Americans do look at it as like, you know, we were brought here, we built this country, they kept us from all the things that we're supposed to have. And then I do think maybe it's a fork in the road type of situation. Do you decide to throw in the towel, you know, and make something new somewhere else and go right? Or do you decide like, fuck all that, like, nah, I'm gonna continue fighting for what I feel like I'm owed here and I'm not gonna stop. Even if it's not for me, it's for you or it's for the next person. And even if they don't deserve it, even if they don't want it, even if they're going to talk bad about me while I'm doing it, if I feel like it's the right thing to do, I'm going to do it. That's how I feel about it.
I would give you the same prescription I give everybody. 6 months. A 6 month sentence.
6 months abroad?
3 months in 2 countries, you know, or 6 months in one country.
I like this challenge.
Where English isn't the native language. And I will personally see to it that you get proper instruction, whatever language you want to go to, because I got somebody everywhere. What I will say to you is that when you finish that 6 months, and I don't care where it is, and like I said, if you're a writer, go on what do writers do? What is it called when a writer goes someplace? A what?
A writer's retreat?
Yeah, go on a writer's retreat. Like I said, I want you to add a $50 coaching tier to your Patreon, right? And then I want you to put on there, I will give 1 hour coaching sessions about any of the things that I've discussed, my ideas, things like that.
Let me take some notes now. Hold on. I'm going to write it down. Because I like this idea, this bet. I'm going to take it real serious. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I want you to set up a $50 tier on your Patreon for private coaching. $50 gets you an hour. And then under that, and I will help you write this. I don't want to insult you because you're a writer as well. But I will help you the best I can to write out that top 5 or 6 things that you already know people call you about and ask you about. This is what I'm willing to work with you on. And you do it at a $50 level. And tell them this money is solely going towards my being able to have a writer's retreat somewhere in the world. What are your top 3 countries?
My top 3 countries. There's a lot of places I want to visit. I mean, I would love to live in Brazil, especially just because I also have known people that have lived there. I like DR a lot. I would love to live in Brazil, though. I think I would pick somewhere in Brazil, maybe. And I'm like familiar with Portuguese because I also know people that speak it. Like DR. I've always wanted to go to Nicaragua, the land of lakes and volcanoes. Always wanted to go there as well. That's some place I've never visited. But it's funny because it's actually really funny. Because when I was in high school, I had a philosophy teacher that I loved and idolized that actually spent 6 months living in Nicaragua and like working on philosophy and working on ideas. And so probably there too, because I was like, I want to do that. So probably there too.
Where else?
You said 3. That was 3. More places? You put me on the spot.
You just gave me 2.
No. I said Brazil, DR, and Nicaragua.
Oh, okay. Watch this then.
Oh, I just saw this. BK from the Rockies. It's not necessarily giving up on people, more so moving on from those that don't want to advance.
For everyone watching this.
Fair.
For everyone watching this now or in the future, anyone who knows someone living in Nicaragua, email me at YusefWateef@gmail.com. I've got Dominican Republic covered. I've got Brazil covered. I think I know some people in Nicaragua, but I'm not sure, so I'm putting this up here right now.
Okay.
I want you back in a couple of weeks. We're going to sit down, and I'm going to have someone from the Dominican Republic. I'm going to have someone from Brazil other than me. And I'm going to have someone from Nicaragua sit down and talk to you about those countries. And we're going to nail down what you want your goal to be and why. So I want you to start writing up questions.
Okay, give me homework and all that. Okay. I like this. That sounds good.
So.
And when I get to Brazil, because I'm going to get there, we're going to talk in person. We're going to do the Black Americans.
Yes, definitely. Okay. All day. I know exactly where I want to do it, too. I want to do it in a place called Ibirapuera Park.
Okay. I've done some filming in parks. It'd be totally cool. Perfect.
All
Yay!
Right. Well, listen, folks, we are going to hang up. Although, Sister Sarah, and I want you to stay on the line for a quick second because I want to finish up some things with you privately to plan out our next session.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the last word. Is there anything you want to let the folks say goodbye with? I really want you to know I've appreciated you spending your afternoon with us.
No problem. I'm glad that you invited me to come on. I think it's good to have these dialogues. And I specifically think it's good to have these dialogues because, we're not a monolith. We're all different, which is even part of why I started doing the Black Americans was because I wanted to sit down and talk to people, other Black people that, and that we don't think the same. We don't have the same ideas. We don't have the same type of conversation because I just think it's important, especially getting back to what we were talking about how there's all these ideas about like us being a monolith and the way that we think and the way that we move. And none of that stuff is true. So I think it's important to continue having these conversations and having these dialogues. And part of also why this is like a great platform that you have here with like great commenters I can see. But part of why I even like to have it in person is because like online, it gets into this like, it turns into this big thing. So I really I thank you for having me on, that we were able to have this conversation, even though we don't agree on everything. It's amazing. We're Black and we don't agree. We don't think the same. Can't believe it. So we can end it with that.
Everybody, make sure you click like and subscribe and share. And thank you. And I hope everybody has a great day and be safe wherever you are.
Wherever you are in the world, be safe. Bye.